Aw yeah, dude. Growing up in the late 90s or early 2000s, being a kid who loved Pokemon was the best thing ever. Whether your love for the franchise spawned from the anime series, trading cards, video games, or Burger King toys, we all wanted to catch them all. Pokemon is still going strong today and is one of the best-selling franchises of all time, but I feel like it was something a lot different back in the day. That's not me talking like a Gen 1er or anything, but the way they advertised the shit out of Pokemon in my younger days felt so much richer compared to how they do nowadays. Maybe it's because there were only a few hundred Pokemon in the first 3 generations where many fan favorites stemmed from, or maybe just because around this time was Pokemon's golden age. My personal favorite was the Johto region of games and roster, and sometimes the games don't get as classic as the first 2 gens. But again, not talking like a Gen 1er. And many kids from my generation learned to love Pokemon from the anime series that aired on Cartoon Network and Kids WB. And after the show being on the air for only a year, a movie was released in Japan, Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back, or as everyone in America was raised to know it as, Pokemon the first movie. And don't worry, that's not the ego of the creators in the title. The movie was just given an English dub in America around the time Japan already had the sequel. So it's not like the Doug's first movie where no other Doug movies exist.
The Pokemon match of all time is here.
But let me tell you, this was practically every little boy's bread and butter and a nostalgia trip of a movie. And looking back, it doesn't hold up. And that's sadly the fault of 4Kids. Not to say the anime dub was flawless.
It's a girl? Oh yeah, I love that.
She can violate my rights if—
What the fuck? But it takes the whole message and characters of the original dub and does a whole 360, making it worse. I actually kinda like the original dub a lot more after watching it for the sake of this video. But before I get into that, let me give you the gist. A group of scientists working for Team Rocket were hired to make a clone of a legendary Pokemon named Mew, and in doing so create Mewtwo. But after feeling like he's being used as an instrument of destruction and not understanding his place in the universe, he destroys the Team Rocket base and decides to create his own place in the universe as the greatest Pokemon trainer of all time. Our main characters from the show, Ash, Misty, and Brock, are invited to meet him under the pretense that he is the greatest trainer amongst other trainers invited. But once they arrive, Mewtwo challenges their Pokemon with his stronger Pokemon and plans to use theirs to create stronger clones to determine the superior race. So Mewtwo has somewhat of a Hitler complex, I guess. But let's put a pin in that statement and we'll come back to it later. This movie was honestly a breath of fresh air. It has animation that's exactly like the film I was raised upon, but with a different soundtrack and better dialogue. In fact, the first 10 minutes of this film have me completely hooked because it was a section of the movie that was never in the American release. The cloning procedure actually starts as a means for a scientist named Dr. Fuji who planned to resurrect his dead daughter, Amber, by cloning a DNA sample of her. And he was hired by Giovanni of Team Rocket to use the DNA found of Mew to create a clone, making Mewtwo. The first 10 minutes delve into that, as well as diving into Mewtwo's psyche and talking to a regenerated form of Amber and making friends with her, as well as a Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur.
What kind of cold, heartless person would break apart such a loving relationship? I would!
But the cloning procedure fails and Amber says goodbye to Mewtwo and he starts panicking until they have to tranquilize him, making him forget the whole experience.
Hey, who left this bowl of onions here?
And Amber's last words are the overlying theme of this movie. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, or where you came from. All that matters is that you are alive now. And damn, saying that out loud is heavy on the heart. And you'd think America would be kind to the original and show some respect. But you forget, this is a 4Kids movie, so they screw it over in every way possible. I mean, Jesus Christ, guys, the soundtrack to the American dub has Aaron Carter, Britney Spears, NSYNC, and Christina Aguilera. Half the track listing of this record have probably all slept with each other. It's like Glee Club, it's disgusting. First off, the English dub is pretty terrible, and it doesn't clash well at all with the script changes. I found out later that Mewtwo's origin story eventually did make it to the American audiences about 3 years later with an English dub, but it was only available as a bonus feature on the DVD release of the straight-to-video film Mewtwo Returns, labeled under the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin. Imagine American audiences seeing this untold story that was kept from them for about 3 years, knowing they plenty well could have gotten it all those years ago when Mewtwo Strikes Back was first released in this country. The reason for this was the origin story added to the film's themes of existentialism and was used as a means to entertain children whilst also stimulating their minds as well as the ones of their parents. But considering those complex philosophical themes were criticized for being too difficult for children to comprehend, they were cut from the American release. And considering the poor reputation the finished product got in 1999, they decided to give the fans what they wanted and added in this origin story, but only as a bonus material on a straight-to-video sequel. And boy, does the aging show. Both these two products have completely different themes going on because the writers of 4Kids learned their lesson the first time they screwed up, and now it's just an odd mess. And watching the English dubs of these two back to back in their proper order just doesn't blend with those contradicting themes. It's kind of like those 3 short films for Blade Runner 2049 that were released on YouTube and Crunchyroll before the film's initial release. The shorts were made as a means to sort of bridge the 30-year gap between this film and the original, but watching these shorts prior to the film actually adds some weight and intrigue to the universe for its newcomers to the franchise, whereas the American dub Pokemon short adds nothing but confusion. The first 10 minutes discuss existentialism, while the other half claims fighting is wrong. Yeah, that's exactly what they went with.
Someone's gotta take a stand. Someone's gotta say no.
You clam up!
I was stating before that Mewtwo's motives were deciding the superior race, seeming resemblant to an authoritative dictator. That's at least what Wikipedia likes to describe his motives are. Dictator just fits the definition for me. And by God, it fit the bill for the writers of this English dub because they make him exactly that in the dub. In the original, Mewtwo was fighting back at the world because he felt like he was created without a place for him, so he makes one for himself by cloning Pokemon, proving one is stronger than the other.
取るいやお前たちが自慢するポケモンよりさらに強いコピーを作る
But in the dub, he becomes an actual authoritative dictator.
I will find my own purpose and purge this planet of all who oppose me. The world will heed my warning. The reign of Mewtwo will soon begin.
Wow, you just ruined the complexity of this character. In the original, Mewtwo was a sympathetic villain, not a straight-up bad guy with evil intentions. And sure, the message in the original dub was phoned in excessively, but at least it was a message that made sense.
本物だってコピーだって今は生きているみんな生き物作られたと言ってもこの世に生きている生き物
As opposed to the English dub that gives the original a big middle finger.
Pokemon aren't meant to fight. Not like this. It's useless.
Why can't Mewtwo understand it's not right to force Pokemon to battle this way?
They're all living creatures. This just proves that fighting is wrong.
I'm sorry, but aren't you two Pokemon gym leaders? Like, isn't that your job? To have Pokemon fight each other to determine if your opponent is worthy enough to earn a badge proving they know how to strategize and fight with their Pokemon? Boy, you just threw that right out the fucking window, didn't you? Why don't we just cancel the existence of Pokemon altogether if your message is to stop making them fight? You'll be giving Digimon the upper hand at this point. Dumbasses. Not to mention, the removal of the opening sequence removes a lot of the tension and weight of one of the most famous scenes in the whole movie. The scene where Ash gets caught in between Mew and Mewtwo's fighting to break them up and causing him to turn to stone. And in return, Pikachu tries waking him up by shocking him, but realizing the grim reality that he's dead brings him and all the other Pokemon to tears. And those tears have enough power to bring him back to life and have Mewtwo change his ways, realizing that his origin does not predetermine who you are. This was a crucial scene that brought many children among crying myself to absolute tears. And the weight of that scene is even more crucial when you include the opening that was cut where Mewtwo starts crying when Amber starts to disappear. Humans and living creatures shed tears when their bodies are in pain, and in that sense both humans and Pokemon feel the same, so in a way, they are the same. And she asks him not to cry because he's living, something she isn't, and living could be fun. But this scene and the topic of existentialism were considered too heavy of topics for a kids movie at the time, so they were removed or altered for the American release. Yeah, but Mewtwo committing mass homicide is just fine. I originally just wanted to talk about the first Pokemon movie in general, but I feel like so much has already been said on the internet, so there's not much I could say. And I was more passionate about how the movie was brought down to a low level due to localization. And because I felt like talking about it after watching the newest 3D animated remake of the first movie released on Netflix. I suppose I can end the video by giving my brief thoughts on it, since it seems kind of pointless to make a newbie video on it since I'm talking about this. The animation is okay. It's nothing grand considering Japan isn't really known for having great 3D animation. The colors are a lot more vibrant and nice, but at times can seem grating to the eyes. I chose to watch the Japanese dub because I may have a childhood, but I also have a conscience, and suffice to say, the Japanese dub is my preferred version. It's practically word for word like the original, and at times I question why this was even made. Even when this was first announced, I questioned that. A lot of people are calling this the 1998 Psycho of anime films, an unnecessary remake to an older film that offers nothing new but just pales in comparison to the original. And yeah, I can see why, even though I haven't seen the Psycho remake yet because I'm afraid to see how they ruined one of my favorite suspense films, but to say this film does nothing is true, and it's not. But dare say, I think they did something better here than the original. In particular, the Tears of Life scene. For one, when Pikachu tries to wake Ash up, some shots are focused on the fear in the faces of Ash's Pokemon, and when Pikachu realizes nothing he's doing is working, he actually loses it, and you can overhear him reaching his breaking point. Does anyone else's heart break hearing Pikachu cry like that? It's like my adulthood has more reason to cry than my childhood did. And a shot or two focuses on Mewtwo showcasing what's happening before him is helping him put the pieces together to help him come to his realization. So in some ways, this remake can be seen as having a few improvements over the original, and even I kinda like it a bit. But then again, there are a lot of people who don't want their childhood ruined with a film like this. But then again, there are a lot of people who complained about the Mulan remake because there won't be any Mushu, Li Shang, or any music because this film is actually trying to do what Disney originally set out to do with these remakes of classic films based on other stories anyways. Just saying, guys. But yeah, Pokemon the first movie doesn't hold up for me personally. There's nostalgia in there, no question about that, but man, does a lot of the middle and last portion of the film drag with all the American-made changes. Personally, if I want to watch this movie again, it'll be for the old nostalgia, otherwise I'll just watch the original dub or even the 3D remake. But if you want to see any of these versions, you might have to scrounge around the internet to find the original dub, but if you happen to do so, then check it out and see for yourself. And always remember to kids WB yourself.